Hi again, everyone. I'm Adam Kassab here at GLOBIS, and welcome to Inside Japan. Today, very delighted to have Robert Russell with us, who is a freelance university instructor and life coach. So, Robert, very nice to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me.
Robert, I think you're a kind of long-term resident of Japan. What actually brought you out to Japan in the first place?
Well, I originally came here in the kind of mid-1990s. I was doing a master's degree in the UK, in the north of England. I graduated from that into the kind of post-Thatcher, the aftermath of the kind of Thatcher years. The things that I'd been kind of trained for, if you like, things like adult education, community education. At that time, they were really being wound down in the UK. The Thatcher years had done a lot of damage to those kind of areas. There was a lot of despondency amongst people. I was going for interviews. People were saying, like, "Don't work here. Like, we're trying to get out." And I found it quite dispiriting, basically, like looking for work in that environment. In that kind of in that context, I was looking around for something to do after the master's degree. So I kind of stumbled across a kind of teaching English course. So it was a weekend kind of roadshow kind of course. So I thought I'd give it a try. It was £100. I just gave it a try, and it was great. There were great teachers in there. I met a lot of people. It made me excited. A lot of people were excited about going abroad and teaching, and so I kind of picked up on that basically. And so I started looking around for a place that I could that I could learn the teaching trade, basically, a place that I could go. I wanted to go abroad. And I hit on Japan, and one of the reasons I hit on Japan is because as a teenager I'd been very, very enthusiastic about Japanese motorcycles. My father was into all the old British bikes, BSAs and the Triumphs, which I found very boring. And the Japanese bikes came along and they were brightly coloured and they were high-powered and they were fast and they were funky. And I became very interested in where these machines were coming from. I mean, that was a time in when I was growing up in the 80s when the UK was flooded with Japanese consumer goods. I mean, stereos and motorcycles and cars, everything was there, and they were such great products. And so I was intrigued, and I read a lot of bike magazines, and some of the testers there would take trips to Japan, and they'd come back with all these kind of stories. And so when it came a time to choose a place to go, they were advertising for jobs in Japan, and I think that's what kind of triggered me to come to Japan.
A lot of people come because they're interested in sort of the martial arts, and then that brings it. But your sort of products and bikes, quite interesting, yeah. So Robert, when you actually got here, anything surprised you, or about the way of life, or living and working here?
Yeah, it's the first thing that really impressed me about Japan, difference-wise. Somebody told me, I think, it amazes me now that I hadn't kind of twigged this, but somebody told me that all Japanese had brown eyes, and when I realised that, it was just amazing to me. Like, I was going around looking people in the eye, like on the train. Like, it's true. Like everyone's got brown eyes, and it just. It took me a long time to kind of to get over that and stop kind of looking people in the eye. So that was amazing. Everyone's got brown hair and brown eyes and black hair. The other thing was the young children on the trains, which is something that I was fascinated by. The fact that parents would send their kind of 5-year-old, 6-year-old elementary school children out on a little trip on their own. In ones or twos with their little hats on and their lunch boxes, and seemingly without worry, they would find their way and they'd know which train to get on, and they never seemed to have a problem doing that. It struck me as such a kind of innocent and very nice thing that people trusted that, and they would send their children out and not be in fear of them being kidnapped. And I still see it, and it's something that I hope never disappears from Japan. It still fascinates me, and I love that about Japan.
Interesting. So, I mean, you've been here quite a few years now. So, how about something you love, something you hate?
Right. So, what I love about Japan, I've got a kind of story that embodies what I love about Japan, and it has to do with the mixture of kind of high technology and nature. And I think living in a city like this with however 20, 30 million people, I can be on top of a mountain very quickly from here because of the Shinkansen. So I love telling the story. Like, so it's a 5-minute walk from my house to my local station, which is a subway station. I walk there 5 minutes with my my ski gear kind of on my back. I get in the train, I'm inside. I go on the subway, I can get to Tokyo Station, I'm still inside. I get to Tokyo Station, walk through the station, go to the Shinkansen tracks, get on the Shinkansen, I'm still inside. I still haven't been outside. The Shinkansen takes about an hour and a half to get to the ski resort. The station is built into the ski resort. You come out of there, follow the signs, go to the changing room, still inside. I can get changed in all my ski gear, and I can then kind of waddle in my ski boots off to the gondola or the ski lift. Still inside, I still haven't been outside, and I go up the mountain, right up the mountain, like it's all this beautiful kind of snow, quite often with blue skies overhead. And I get to the top of the mountain, and when I get out of that pod, that's the first time that I've been out, basically since I arrived at my home station. And I'm on top of a mountain, and I've got skis, and I'm ready to ski down. And that, to me, is absolutely, it's phenomenal. It's amazing. I love that.
Yeah. That's how about like kind of a downside to living, something you don't like?
Well, the flip side is the ticket that I buy to take that trip. If I want to make a small change to it, for example, if I want to add another person to the party, if I want to change the time of the train, just a small change, it's going to be like applying for a mortgage. I mean, the paperwork, I'm probably going to have to go back into the office. They'll have to cancel the ticket, reissue the ticket. Just the hassle involved in doing that little piece of paperwork. And it's not only that, there's so many areas where I guess perhaps the price you pay for all that efficiency is this very, very kind of detailed and, to me, very irksome kind of paper trail. And whenever I get caught up in the red tape and the paperwork, I find it incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, that can be very frustrating. Yeah. Thanks, Robert. So, can you tell us a bit more about your job? You're saying freelance university instructor and life coach. What do you actually do?
Well, so I do the Freelance University work. That's my teaching work. I've been an English teacher in Japan for a long time. The life coaching is a new thing. I've made some space on my schedule now. I'm basically a trainee life coach. I'm just getting into it. I'm just trying to build a business. I'm learning about life coaching and about marketing life coaching. And it's something that's making me very, very enthusiastic. At the moment, I have a kind of my niches, if you like, as they say in the kind of marketing. This is GLOBIS, so I need to use a bit of marketing language. The niches, like I'm learning this stuff. That I have cross-cultural coaching. So I've been in Japan for a long time. I've been to a lot of different countries. I understand some of the issues that are involved in adapting to a different culture. The career change. I've just finished a 5-year psychology degree, which I did by distance from an Australian university.
Distance learning?
It was by distance learning, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. For various reasons, I've decided not to try and become a psychologist. There are lots of kind of professional demands involved, which would basically mean I'd have to leave Japan in order to do that. Coaching is something very kind of psychology related, but it's much more flexible. And so I've kind of discovered coaching really this year, and it's something that I'm very enthusiastic about.
And life coaching is focusing on what when you?
I mean, I'd say there's those niches. I mean, I could give you an example. I'm very enthusiastic about the idea of being what is called, or what I would call, a kind of writing coach. So the idea is to basically, the idea is to find out what people want simply by asking them questions and letting them talk. And what amazes me about this is the simplicity of that. It's like it's very simple. What do you want? That's the question. What do you want? And what I love about that question is it's something I've always felt embarrassed about, is what do I want? It's like a child kind of wants this or wants that, or you want a new watch, or you want a car. You know, it's associated with kind of material things, or with being a kind of hard-driving kind of business person who's treading on people to get what they want. But the idea of that what you want really is really just the core of you, the things that are very meaningful and very intense and very powerful inside you are expressed through the things that you want. And if you take that to a deep level and to the level of what it means to you to want that thing, you know, a lot of people want money, most people want money, but it means something different to everybody. And what they want is not really money, it's whatever money gives them, which taps into into something very real inside. And discovering that, and then finding how you can take action, if you like, to follow those wants through. Can be a very, it has been for me, and I think for many people it can be a very liberating experience, and it can really increase the amount of energy you have available to live, basically. And it's such a simple but very powerful thing.
Sounds very liberating. It sounds like a very rewarding process to go through.
It's incredibly rewarding to do that for other people, and it's not only rewarding, it's the relationship that's rewarding, like in the process of doing it for other people. I mean, that in a sense is so I'm getting what I want out of it, and they're getting what they want out of it. And so the relationship kind of releases energy, which leaves everyone kind of feeling invigorated. It's a great thing.
Sounds like I could benefit a bit from that. So I hope you've got some free time in your schedule for maybe one of your first clients. But anyway.
I could always make time for you.
Thanks. Tips, Robert, tips for foreigners or non-Japanese people who are maybe thinking of coming here or who are already here. Tips for them about how to get on well with Japanese people.
Yeah, right. So learn to talk about food. This has been a challenge for me. Learn to talk about food, and get the basic stuff out the way. Right. After a few days in Japan, you'll know the questions that you're going to get asked. Like, can you use chopsticks? Do you like natto? Like, do you like sushi? So what I do is look. Let's talk about food, okay? And I'll say, look, I'm an absolute whiz with chopsticks. Like, I can eat natto, but I don't want to eat it. And I love sushi, but I hate kind of fish egg sushi, right?
So you get that out of the way.
Get out of the way. But what I really love is taka wasabi, right? So this is like kind of octopus with kind of mustard with wasabi on it. And so I try and go straight to that, and let's talk about that. So straight away it's like, okay, so you've done all that, and you get this shocked, oh God, I've got no questions left to ask. But then it's like, well, then we're talking about food, and everybody in this country loves to talk about food.
Right.
And so I find it's such a great way to get a conversation started, and to show very quickly that you've moved past the basics, to get those questions, which can become very tiresome, out of the way, and then you've achieved a lot by doing that. And you know, I've actually learned to enjoy talking about food. It's not something that comes naturally to me. So I mean, I think that would be one piece of advice anyway.
And the other way around, tips for Japanese about how to get on better with non-Japanese.
Yeah, I think to be interested in something other than a foreigner's foreignness. Right. Is important. I think, you know, everybody likes to feel that there's something about them which is interesting to other people, and it's all very well being interesting because you're a foreigner, because you're the foreign element. But I think, you know, ultimately that wears off very quickly, and I think you can go deeper much more quickly if you just do what you would do with anybody else, which is, you know, find something you have in common with them and talk about that. So, you know, do you like football? Do they like football? What kind of music? Do you like music? Do they like music? Let's talk about that thing. And I think if you can just get in the habit of doing that, which in a sense is just treating people normally. I think not treating them like a foreigner, but treating them like a you know, an interesting person who they like to get to know.
Thank you very much. How about, I mean, you mentioned bikes, you're interested in bikes, Japanese bikes, but, you know, how about Japanese sort of historical figures, cultural figures, artists, anyone like that you respect? Or
yeah, so I mean, I don't know so much about the actual cultural figures, but but the products of their culture. Like, so, I mean, I love Japanese writing, basically. So, I mean, Norwegian Wood is one of the most beautiful books that I've read. It's Haruki Murakami's book. It's it's a very popular book, but it's such a beautiful story. It's such a beautiful love story. It's, especially if you've lived here and you've been to some of the places that are mentioned in there, it's such a lovely story. So I don't like everything that Haruki Murakami has written, but that's a beautiful story, and he's written other great stuff. I really like Banana Yoshimoto. Partly I just love the name Banana Yoshimoto. I like telling people I like Banana Yoshimoto. But I've read some of her books, and what was illuminating to me was, so I read I haven't read The Kitchen, I read a book called Amrita, and there's a movie made of one of her books called Argentine Baba, which is about a kind of like an Argentinian lady who's living in Japan. Beautiful stories, and I really her father apparently was quite a famous philosopher, Banana Yoshimoto's, and I very often when I like something, there's some kind of philosophical kind of background to it. So I really kind of connected with it. Again, I don't know much about her, but I really like her books. And the other one is I like Fujiko Fujio. The Dryman stories are so beautiful, and I think they speak to it, the real kind of the best of Japan. So there's such beautiful stories. They're so tender, and the relationships in there, and full of such great ideas. I mean, how can that not be exciting for it? Not only children, but I love them. The whole idea of Doraemon is just inspired, and they're beautifully drawn. So I think that's the best of kind of Japanese art.
Fantastic. Aren't we lucky? All of these are available in English as well. I think
that's right. Yeah.
Very lucky.
Yeah, that's right.
Amazing. Thanks, Robert. Very interesting. Can you think? Question I always ask you: if you could combine the strengths from the UK and maybe the strengths from Japan to make this kind of super culture or superpower, what would you pick and choose?
It's such a difficult. I was thinking about that question, and that is such a difficult question to answer. So what I came up with is there's an idea of sportsmanship. So I find it very difficult to answer in the general, but sportsmanship, I think, if you could combine the competitiveness of Anglo-Saxons, basically, and I'm thinking about football as an example here, with the kind of the sense of fair play, which England used to be famous for, but is not now, I think. And if you think about the J League, for example, which is really quite new in Japan, it's only 20-something years old, I think. And the problem with the J League, with Japanese football players, which is beginning to be addressed by, is the lack of foreign competition. That's what holds, as far as I can see, that's what holds them back from becoming genuinely competitive internationally, is a lack of foreign competition. And of course, in the UK now, you've got nothing but that. I mean, it's just amazingly kind of competitive, and it's all comers. Right? But at the same time, and I've played a fair amount of football in this country, and there's a lot of politeness, if you like, around that, and it's a beautiful thing, but it can be quite frustrating if you're used to being competitive and just getting on with the game of football, because you've got to follow all these kind of procedures and these kind of rules to keep things friendly, if you like. And it doesn't work like with international competition. So I think if Japan, from a Japan side, if they could expand the J League, make it more competitive, but keep that sense of fair play. And if on the flip side, the Anglo-Saxons could kind of relearn their own sense of fair play, which was a very English quality, I think. If they could relearn their own sense of fair play and combine it with this amazing kind of competitiveness, which makes the Premier League probably the best in the world, so one of the best in the world, then I think you'd have something really quite special.
Interesting. Sounds like I'd love to watch those types of football matches being played.
Yes,
if you could do that.
Someone to watch for the future, hopefully.
Fantastic. Robert, been great talking to you. Final message for our viewers.
Okay. Right. So a little bit complicated, but bear with me, right? So the film on your phone, right? The thing that protects the screen, right? I once saw a product that was produced in Japan. And it was like a film for your window, right? And it basically was a design, and you couldn't see through it. But there's a hole in it. You can have it put anywhere. There's a hole in it about the size of a tennis ball, and the purpose is that if you have a horrible view from your window, right? If you just got this really dirty shopping street, something like that, but there's one little thing in there, maybe a tree or a shop front or something that is really nice. You position the hole so that you see the pattern, and all you can see of the outside is that beautiful thing. So it looks like you've got this marvelous view because all you're looking at is this kind of tiny part of it. Now I think that the Japanese are very good at that, which is filtering out, whole swathes of really uninspiring environment and focusing on something very beautiful. So you get this marvelous kind of garden right in the middle of the city. You wade through all these kind of all the same and kind of dirty streets, and suddenly you arrive at this amazing kind of garden, which has been very carefully planned, and it is a beautiful place to sit, and everyone goes there for lunch. It's marvelous. So I think if that's a great way to approach Japan, basically, and it's a marvelous thing that Japan can give you, is that ability to kind of focus. If you can combine that with the perspective that not being fully part of this culture gives you as a foreign person. And it would be the same for Japanese abroad if they could do the flip side. If you can combine that with the perspective, not forgetting who you are and that your kind of identity exists outside of this country, what you've got is the best of both worlds. And enjoy the best of both worlds because it's available here. You can have the best of both worlds. And a bit complicated, but think about it.
Very insightful. Yeah. Thank you very much, Robert Russell. Thanks very much for coming in.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
So we have Robert Russell there sharing some fascinating insights, talking about football as well, which was interesting. Freelance University instructor and also life coach. And I'm thinking of taking up this offer of having some life coaching from Robert. So thank you very much. You've been watching Inside Japan. I'm Adam Kassab from GLOBIS. Catch you next time.